In the dead of night, at precisely 2 a.m., my sister Mia stumbled onto the weathered wooden porch of my downtown loft apartment. Her once beautiful face transformed into a horrifying mask of blood, bruises, and unchecked tears. Her left eye was completely swollen shut. The skin around it a grotesque palette of deep purple and black, and her cheekbone appeared unnaturally distorted, likely fractured from a brutal blow. She clutched her right side desperately with one trembling hand, as if trying to physically hold her cracked ribs together to keep from falling apart entirely, between ragged, gasping sobs that seemed toe-tiered from the depths of her soul. She managed to whisper the devastating truth. My fiancé, Alex. He beat me so badly, ... because I found out about his Creatorialina. I couldn't stay silent anymore. I pulled her inside the festi of my home without uttering a single word at first, my heart shattering into 1,000 pieces as I guided her fragile form through the door. I quickly bandaged her visible wounds with steady hands, drawing on every ounce of composure I had honed over years of high-stakes journalism. Then, with a cold determination settling over me like a shroud, I slipped into my old investigative journalist gear, grabbing my trusty laptop, a digital voice recorder, and a discreet hidden camera concealed in a pen. I loaded fresh batteries into each device, my mind already shifting into war mode, ready to unleash a storm of retribution that this monster would never see coming. Then, without hesitation, I fired off an urgent text to my editor. Launch the expos now. We have a monster to take down. If you're reading this gripping tale right now, please hit that like button to show your support. Subscribe for more stories of justice and empowerment. And drop a comment below telling me where you're tuning in. From Mitrally, want to know how far this powerful narrative of retribution and resilience has spread across the globe. It had been one of those endlessly grueling days that seemed to stretch on forever. And I had just powered down my computer after finally hitting send on a major deadline piece, my eyes burning fiercely from hours upon hours of staring at glowing screens, peering over documents, and cross-referencing sources. As an investigative journalist stemmed in this bustling, relentless metropolis, a city of towering glass skyscrapers piercing the cloudy night sky, flashing neon billboards advertising everything from luxury brands to dive bars, and shadowy back alleys teeming with untold secrets and hidden agendas, my days were defined by a tireless pursuit of the truth. I specialized in exposing deep-rooted corporate frauds that brought down greedy executives, uncovering layers of political corruption that forced high-profile resignations, and delving fearlessly into the dark underbelly of organized crime syndicates that masqueraded behind the facade of legitimate businesses. That particular evening, I had wrapped up and submitted a bombshell investigative report on a sprawling real estate scam that implicated several corrupt city council members, unscrupulous property and a web of money laundering operations funneled through bogus charitable organizations. The piece had required an immense amount of painstaking work, sifting through thousands of leaked internal emails and memos, conducting covert interviews with nervous whistleblowers in dimly lit underground parking garages or anonymous coffee shops, and meticulously tracing convoluted financial trails that snaked their way through a maze of offshore bank accounts in places like the Cayman Islands, Switzerland, and Panama. My fingers throbbed painfully from nonstop typing on my keyboard. My neck was stiff and knotted from hunching over dual monitors for what felt like an eternity, and my mind was buzzing with a potent mix of adrenaline-fueled triumph from nailing the story and the bone-deep exhaustion that inevitably followed such intense efforts. The digital clock on my cluttered desk glowed with a soft, eerie blue light, reading 1:45 a.m., casting long shadows across the room filled with stacks of printed articles, notepads scribbled with leads, and empty coffee mugs stained with rings from countless refills. I slumped heavily onto my worn leather couch in my modest downtown loft apartment, the kind with exposed red brick walls, high industrial ceilings that echoed every little sound, and large windows offering views of the city's ceaseless energy. The nocturnal symphony of the metropolis infiltrated through the slightly cracked window. The distant, piercing wail of police sirens racing through rain-slicked concrete canyons. The low, rumbling growl of late-night delivery trucks navigating narrow side streets. The occasional sharp blare of a taxi horn from impatient drivers weaving through lingering traffic. And the muffled chatter and bursts of laughter spilling out from the trendy bar just 2 blocks away, where a mix of hipsters in vintage clothing and overworked office professionals drud. Their daily stresses in craft cocktails and lively conversations. My neighborhood was a vibrant, eclectic mosaic of urban life trendy cafes with artisanal coffee, rubbing shoulders with gritty old pawn shops, displaying dusty treasures in their windows. Street artists tagging vibrant murals on brick walls under the glow of sodium street lamps. And the constant underlying hum of city existence that never truly quieted down, no matter the hour. It was alive with the raw, unfiltered pulse of the metropolis. People chasing elusive dreams under the bright lights, dodging personal nightmares in the shadows, or simply grinding through another endless shift to make ends meet in this expensive, unforgiving place. I kicked off my scuffed leather boots, letting them thud heavily to the scuffed hardwood floor with a satisfying clunk, and closed my heavy eyelids, willing the knotted tension to slowly unravel from my shoulders, back, and mind. Sleep beckoned me like a seductive siren song, a deep restorative, dreamless void that I desperately craved after the unrelenting cues of the day. But that fragile, hard-earned peace wheezed abruptly and violently shattered by a frantic pounding at the door, echoing through the stillness of my apartment like sudden thunderclaps in a clear sky. It wasn't a polite or measured knock. It was desperate, erratic, and growing noticeably weaker with each successive blow, as if the person on the other side was rapidly losing their strength and resolve. My heart leaped into my throat, pounding erratically against my ribcage, and a powerful surge of adrenaline flooded my system in an instant, sharpening my senses to razor-sharp focus. In my line of work as an investigative journalist, unexpected visitors showing up at this ungodly hour could spell all sorts of trouble, from a frantic tipster fleeing imminent danger after leaking sensitive information to me, to a validor overt threat from someone I'd recently exposed in one of my hard-hitting articles. Perhaps even a disgruntled subject seeking personal revenge for having their dirty secrets dragged into the public light. I bolted upright from couch in a flash, my hand instinctively reaching for my smartphone on the cluttered coffee table amid scattered notebooks and half-empty water bottles. It quickly scanned the room for something to use as a defensive weapon, my eye slanting on a heavy brass lamp sitting on the side till I yanked the power cord from the wall socket with a sharp tug, wielding the lamp like a makeshift club, its solid weight providing a small measure of reassurance in my grip. "Who is it?" I demanded through the door, my voice steady and authoritative but laced with an unmistakable undercurrent of caution, as I crept toward the entrance on silent feet and pressed my eye to the small peephole to peer out into the dimly lit hallway, illuminated only by a flickering fluorescent bulb that cast eerie, dancing shadows on the walls. No immediate response came, just a tense, agonizing pause that stretched out like an eternity, followed by softer, more feeble knocks accompanied by a choked, heart-wrenching sob that pierced the silence and sent icy chills racing down my spine like electric shocks. "Anna, please. It's me, Mia. Open up, I beg you. I can't stand out here any longer. It's too dangerous." The voice was unmistakably hers, though horribly distorted by raw, unfiltered pain and paralyzing fear. My younger sister, Mia, the one person in the world I'd sworn an unbreakable oath to protect no matter the cost or consequences. Panic gripped my chest like a cold iron vice, squeezing the air from my lungs. Mia lived all the way across town in a luxurious high-rise condominium in the affluent financial district, where sleek glass towers pierced the skyline like needles, shared with her fiancé, Alex Harlan. What could possibly have driven her to my doorstep, alone, and in such obvious distress, in the dead of night when the city was at its most unforgiving? I flung the door open wide, the hinges creaking loudly in protest, and she practically collapsed into my outstretched arms. Her slender frame trembling uncontrollably like a leaf caught in a violent storm. I caught her just in time, supporting her full weight as she sagged heavily against me. Her breaths coming in short, ragged gasps that spoke volumes of physical exhaustion and deep-seated agony. The harsh, unforgiving glow from the hallway light cast stark, unflattering shadows across her battered face, revealing a living nightmare that made my stomach churn with nausea and my blood boil with rage. Her left eye was swollen nearly completely shut. The delicate skin around it, a mottled canvas of deep purple and black bruising that extended downward to her cheekbone, which appeared unnaturally puffed and distorted, possibly fractured from a forceful impact, sending a sharp pang of empathetic pain through my own body. Her lower lip was brutally split open in a jagged line, crusted with dried blood that still seeped fresh crimson droplets, staining her chin and the collar of her once pristine blouse. She clutched her right side protectively with one shaking hand, wincing sharply with every shallow breath she took, as if each inhalation sent jagged shards of excruciating pain ripping through her torso. Her clothes, a simple silk blouse and tailored jeans that she usually wore with effortless style and confidence, were disheveled and torn at the sleeve, smeared with what looked like street dirt and grime from a desperate fall or a frantic scramble to escape. Strands of her usually impeccably styled auburn hair clung damply to her forehead and cheeks, matted with a mixture of sweat, tears, and perhaps even blood. Mia, oh God, what happened to you? Who did this? I whispered urgently, my voice cracking despite my best efforts to stay composed and strong for her, as I kicked the door shut behind us with my foot and engaged the deadbolt with a resounding click that echoed too loudly in the quiet confines of my apartment. Sealing us off from the outside world, she collapsed heavily onto the couch, her body curling in on itself defensively as fresh sobs broke free now that she was inside and relatively safe from immediate harm, at least for the moment. Alex. It was Alex, she managed to choke out between gasping breaths, her voice hoarse and broken, barely above a whisper, as if speaking his name aloud might summon him like a demon from the shadows. I found Utho's been cheating on me with his secretary, Alina Vargas. They've been a gur for months, maybe even longer than that. I confronted him tonight at home in our condo. Showed him the incriminating emails I discovered on his laptop when he carelessly left it unlocked after a meeting. He completely lested Anna. He screamed that I was destroying his perfect life, that I had no right to snoop through his private things like some paranoid, untrusting bitch. Then he punched me square in the face with his closed fist, throwing on his finger, cutting my lip, and kicked me hard in the ribs multiple times when I fell to the floor, trying to curl up and protect myself. I barely managed to grab my keys and phone and run out the door into the night. I hailed a random cab on the street and came straight here to you. The words stumbled out in a chaotic torrent, each one landing like a sharp dagger straight on my heart, twisting deeper with every painful revelation she shared. Alex Harlan, the 35-year-old charismatic tech mogul Mia, had met at a high-profile industry conference 2 years ago, where he'd been the keynote speaker on digital innovation and data privacy. He'd swept her off her feet with his magnetic charm. His inspiring stories of bootstrapping Harlan Tech from a humble garage startup in the tech hubs of Silicon Valley to a multi-million-dollar empire, specializing in so-called ironclad privacy and data security apps. I'd met him several times over the course of their relationship family dinners, where he regaled us with tales of cutting-edge tech breakthroughs and entrepreneurial triumphs, always flashing thought-polished, million-dollar smile and exuding an easy, confident charisma that seemed almost too good to be true. But beneath that carefully crafted veneer, I'd always sensed something slightly off-kilter, a subtle controlling edge in how he spoke to Mia, a possessiveness masked as protective affection, like when he'd insist on knowing her exact schedule down to the minute or dismiss her opinions with a patronizing laugh disguised as humor. Now, the mask had shattered irreparably, revealing the vicious monster lurking underneath, capable of such heinous brutality against the woman he had claimed to love and cherish. A wave of visceral, all-consuming rage boiled within me, hot and unrelenting, making my hands tremble uncontrollably as I set down the brass lamp on the coffee table. It was the kind of primal fury that could dizzily consume a person if not channeled. Propilia, mother's protective instinct, amplified tenfold. Though I wasn't her biological parent, but her legal guardian and surrogate mother since our own parents' tragic death in a car accident on a stormy night years ago. I'd raised her through those turbulent teenage years filled with grief and uncertainty, working multi-paying jobs while pursuing my journalism degree online in the evenings, shielding her from the harsh realities of potential foster care and emotional instability. Mia, with her artistic soul and sensitive nature, had blossomed under my care into a talented graphic designer, landing a dream job at a creative agency where she'd first crossed paths with Alex during a collaborative project. But now here she was, shattered and vulnerable in my living room. And that rage mixed with a crushing, overwhelming heartbreak that threatened to bring me to my knees. I pushed it all down with practiced effort, drawing on my professional composure, honed from years of facing down dangerous sources and high-pressure deadlines. Mia needed the practical, unflinching version of Anna right now. The big sister who'd always been her unwavering rock through every storm life threw at us. Okay, take deep breaths if you can. Let's get you cleaned up first before anything else, I said, my voice calm and reassuring as I hurried to the bathroom cabinet for the well-stocked first aid kit I kept on hand for my own occasional scrapes and bruises from fieldwork adventures. I returned with antiseptic wipes, sterile gauze pads, adhesive tape, and a couple of ice packs wrapped in soft kitchen towels to reduce swelling. Gently, with the tenderness of a sister who had bandaged countless scraped knees in childhood, I dabbed at her split lip with the antiseptic-soaked wipe, the sharp sting making her hiss in pain and fresh tears well up in her good eye, rolling down her bruised cheek. This cut is deep and jagged. It might need stitches to heal properly without leaving a bad scar, I murmured softly, my heart aching as I worked carefully to avoid causing her more discomfort. When I coaxed her to lift her blouse carefully, exposing her torso, I nearly gasped aloud in horror, sprawling. Ugly bruise-covered hair ribs and abdomen in a chaotic pattern. Dark purple with yellowish edges already beginning to form around the edges. The clear, unmistakable outline of a shoe print embedded in the swollen skin like a cruel brand of ownership. It wasn't just a single impulsive punch. He'd kicked her viciously, repeatedly, as I intent on breaking not just her body but her spirit along with it. The sight made bile rise bitterly in my throat, but I forced myself to stay focused and clinical. We have to get you to a doctor immediately, Mia. This could be serious cracked or broken ribs, possible internal damage or bleeding that we can't see. You can't risk ignoring it. It could turn into something life-threatening, I insisted firmly, my mind already racing through a list of options and contacts. She shook her head weakly, her uninjured hand clutching my arm with desperate, surprising strength despite her injuries, her nails digging into my skin through my sleeve. No hospitals, Anna. Please, you have to understand. He'll find me there somehow. He always does. He tracks everything: my phone's location data, my credit card transactions, even my social media logins. He's got powerful connections in the tech world. People who can hack into hospital systems, pull patient records without a trace. It's how he built his entire company, remember? Privacy apps that ironically let him invade anyone's life he chooses. Her fear was palpable and contagious. A living, breathing entity that twisted her features into a mask of pure terror. Her breath coming faster now in shallow pants of panic that only exacerbated her rib pain. I nodded slowly, understanding the depth of her paranoia wasn't unfounded or irrational. Harlan Tech specialized in data security software, but whispers in my journalistic circles suggested they collected user metadata under the table for targeted improvements and sold it to the highest bidder. But I couldn't gamble with her health. One wrong move, and complications like a punctured lung could set in without warning. Fine, no public emergency room where records are easy to access and hack. I know a private clinic discreet off the grid used by survivor networks for cases just like this to keep things confidential. I profiled the doctor there years ago for an expo-zone underground shelters for domestic violence victims. They'll keep it all under the radar. No digital trails. While we waited for the encrypted rideshare I'd summoned using a burner app on my work phone to avoid any digital footprints, I held her close on the couch, rocking her gently like I did when we were kids and she'd wake up from nightmares about our parents' accident, screaming in the dark. Her head rested heavily on my shoulder, her sobs gradually subsiding into shaky, uneven breaths as the immediate adrenaline began to fade. Her phone discarded carelessly on the coffee table amid my scattered work notes. Buzzed incessantly like an angry hornet trapped in a jar, its calls from Alex piling up one after another. Texts flashing menacingly on the lock screen. "Where the fuck are you, Mia? Come back right now or you'll regret it for the rest of your miserable life. This isn't over, you belong to me, and I'll make sure you remember that." The words sent a fresh wave of fury coursing through my veins like fire. I reached for the device to smash it into pieces, but Mia grabbed my wrist with surprising force despite her weakened state. "Don't answer or even touch it, Anna, please. If he knows I'm with you, he'll come after us both without mercy. He's not the man I fell in love with anymore. He's become something dark, obsessive, dangerous." I relented for the moment, pocketing the phone instead and powering it down completely to cut off any potential tracking signals or GPS pings. "You're safe here with me, Mia. I won't let him lay a finger on you again. I promise on everything we have left of our family. On Mom and Dad's memory." But inside my mind, a strategic plan was already coalescing like pieces of a puzzle falling into place. The journalist in me wakening like a predator, sensing vulnerable, methodical. Relinel's pursuit of justice that would expose Alex for the abuser, fraud, and manipulator he truly was, bringing his empire crashing down around him. The clinic was a nondescript, low-key building tucked away on the city's quieter outskirts, nestled inconspicuously among old warehouses and abandoned lots to avoid drawing attention, funded by anonymous donors who supported causes for the vulnerable and voiceless. Dr. Sophia Ramirez, a stern but deeply compassionate woman with salt and pepper hair, teed back in a practical bun and sharp, knowing eyes behind rimless glasses, met Usat, the back entrance under the cover of shadows, her white coat gleaming faintly in the moonlight. I'd interviewed her years ago for that survivor story. She remembered my byline and nodded grimly as I explained the situation, unhushed, urgent tones. "Bring her in quickly and quietly," she said softly, leading us through a side door into a sterile but comforting exam room equipped with state-of-the-art medical gear that was untraceable and off the official grid. Mia lay on the padded examination table, wincing in pain as Dr. Ramirez probed her injuries with gentle, expert hands. Her touch firm but empathetic. "We'll need x-rays and an ultrasound right away to measure," she ordered a trusted nurse in a low voice, her tone professional but laced with concern. "Possible rib fracture, extensive contusions and bruising. Let's rule out any internal bleeding or organ damage before it becomes critical." I paced the small waiting area, a cramped space with fade posters on the walls advocating for victim rights and hotlines for help. Mimind racing through next steps, evidence collection protocols, contacts toll average for deeper digs, potential angles to investigate for the story brewing. This wasn't just a personal family crisis anymore. It felt like the antithesis of a major career-defining expose. One where the villain dressed in a tailored suit and wielding tech power was about to be dragged, kicking and screaming into the harsh light of public scrutiny. The diagnostic results came back after what felt like an agonizing eternity of waiting. The clock on the wall ticking loudly in the silence, one cracked rib that would require time, rest and careful monitoring to heal properly. Severe bruising across her torso, but fortunately no life-threatening. Internal bleeding or organ rupture, but the emotional toll was etched plainly in Mia's hollow. Distant eyes and the way she flinched at even the slightest. Sudden noise or movement. Dr. Ramirez documented dairy meticulously and is sealed. Paper-only report to avoid digital Trasu's higher-resolution photos of the injuries from multiple angles. Detailed notes on the extent and nature of the trauma. A full medical history compiled for potential legal use in court. She's lucky it wasn't much worse. She told me privately in the hallway, her expression grave and her voice lowered. Physically, she'll mend with proper care. But Thep's psychological scars from this kind of intimate betrayal and physical violence, ... Get her into therapy as soon as she's stable enough. And Anna Yoon, 2 press charges immediately. Men like him don't stop on their own. They escalate unless they're forced to face consequences. I nodded resolutely, thanking her profusely for her discretion and expertise. My resolve hardening like tempered steel in a forge. As we left the clinic at the first hints of dawn, breaking over the horizon, painting the sky in soft, hopeful pinks and oranges that contrasted sharply with the darkness we'd just endured. Maya leaning heavily on my arm for support as she limped along. I made my first overt strategic move. In the back seat of the rideshare, shielded from any prying eyes by tinted windows, I pulled out my secure work phone and texted Mediter. Lena Vosa, 2 Fasnel's veteran journalist with a no-nonsense attitude, who'd mentored me through my early career hurdles at the city paper, teaching me how to navigate ethical minefields and protect sources. Personnel emergency alert. Sister assaulted by fiancé. Alex Harlan of Harlan Tech. Need immediate full access to premium investigative databases and any existing dirt in him. Suspect deeper financial fraud ties based on initial intel from a source. Lena's reply pinged back almost instantly. Her direct and supportive style shining through even in text. Jesus Christ, Anna. That's Chevy stuff. Take whatever resources you need, databases, confidential contacts, even a secure line if required. Watch your back carefully. Harlan's got powerful friends in tech circles and politics. Keep me in the loop and developments. Back at my apartment, as the morning light filtered through the blinds in golden shafts, casting long patterns on the floor, I settled Mia in the guest room, cozy. Comforting space with soft linens on the bed. Bookshelves lined with my favorite novels for escape, and a small window overlooking a quiet courtyard. I administered the prescribed painkillers with a glass of water and tucked a warm blanket around her trembling form, watching as exhaustion finally claimed her. Her breathing evening out into a fitful but much-needed sleep. But sleep evaded me entirely. The adrenaline and simmering anger kept me wired and alert. I retreated to my home office, a chaotic sanctuary filled with stacks of research notes and printouts, multiple glowing computer monitors displaying open tabs, and walls pinned with intricate storyboards from past investigations, timelines of events, photos of suspects and red string connecting dots, like a classic detective's war room. I booted up my high-end laptop with a hum, connecting to the secure VPN Lena had unlocked for top-tier access to proprietary databases. First priority on my mental checklist: preserve the physical evidence before it faded. I used my professional DSLR camera to photograph Mia's injuries in excruciating detail, the swollen eye with its rainbow spectrum of bruises, the fractured cheekbones, unnatural swell, and discoloration, the boot print bruise on her ribs that told a silent story of calculated, repeated cruelty. Each shot was meticulously time-stamped with geotagging disabled for security reasons, and immediately backed up to an encrypted cloud drive with multi-factor authentication and end-to-end encryption. These weren't mere pictures for a family album. They were irrefutable ammunition, the solid foundation of the war I was declaring against Alex. Ready to be used in court or in print, next, the deep dive into Alex's background commenced with focused intensity. Alex Harlan, 35 years old, self-proclaimed visionary CEO of Harlan Tech, developers of so-called ironclad privacy apps that promised users unbreakable Data protection but whispers in tech circles and my own preliminary research suggested they were double-edged words. Collecting metadata for backdoor sales to advertisers or worse. Public records pulled from premium databases revealed a checkered past that raised red flags to previous marriages. Both dissolved in acrimonious divorces with hefty financial settlements sealed under ironclad non-disclosure agreements, preventing the ex-wives from ever speaking out publicly about what really happened. Financial statements showed suspicious patterns that screamed foul play large. Unexplained transfers to offshore accounts in tax havens. Investments in opaque shell companies that smelled strongly of money laundering or embezzlement schemes. Employee reviews on anonymous sites like Glassdoor painted a damning portrait of a toxic workplace culture. Harassment claims that were routinely swept under the rug by HR. Impossibly high turnover rates among staff. And allegations of verbal abuse and intimidation coming straight from the top executive level. But I needed to go deeper to unearth the rot and thievery core of his operation. I reached out to Carlos Ruiz, a disgruntled former IT specialist at Harlan Tech, whom I'd connected with during a previous story and data privacy breaches in the industry. We arranged a covert meet at noon in a bustling public park, far from any potential surveillance cameras or eavesdroppers, where joggers in bright activewear and dog walkers with leash-ad pits provided natural cover and background noise. Carlos, a wiry man in high-slayed 40s with thick glasses, a perpetual nervous tick in his eye, and a backpack slung over one shoulder, slid a plain, unmarked USB drive across the wooden bench to me, glancing over his shoulder paranoidly. Harlan's embezzling millions from investors and clients. He whispered urgently, his voice low and hurried amid the chirping birds and distant traffic sounds. He's siphoning funds through fake vendor invoices, ghost projects that exist only on paper, and bogus expense reports. Alina Vargas, his executive secretary, is Heizo accomplice and his secret lover. They've forged documents using Mia's name and digital signature to cover their tracks. If the scheme collapses under scrutiny, she takes the fall as the jealous fiancé who cooked the books out of spite. The USB drive was an absolute goldmine, a treasure trove of damning evidence that made my journalists' heart race with excitement. Intercepted internal emails between Alex and Alina detailing notantly their steamy, illicit affair with explicit messages and photos. But Alsoth's intricate fraud schemes they orchestrated together. Spreadsheets medically logging diverted funds amounting to over $5 million in total. Events repetitious audio clips recorded from meetings where Alex berated and threatened staff, promising terminations or worse for anyone who questioned his creative accounting methods. This elevated the situation far beyond a simple case of domestic abuse. It was full-blown white-collar crime on a grand corporate scale, the kind that could topple entire empires, led to federal indictments and land perpetrators in prison for decades. Mia woke around lunchtime, her face still pale and drawn from pain and shock, but her eyes a bit clearer, less clouded by the immediate fog of trauma. I prepared a simple, nourishing meal for her. Homemade chicken broth simmered slowly with fresh herbs, carrots and onions for flavor, paired with soft toast to soothe her sore mouth, and split lip hand sat beside her on the bed as she ate slowly and carefully, wincing with each tentative swallow. Tell me everything, from the very beginning of when things started feeling off, I urged gently, my notebook at the ready to capture every detail for the record. Between tentative bites, the full story poured out like a dam bursting after years of pressure. The initial red flags of Alex's increasingly late nights at office that he dismissed as crunch time for a big launch. The whispered phone calls he took in other rooms, always hanging up quickly when she entered. The growing emotional distance that left her feeling isolated and doubtful. Then the shattering discovery, stumbling upon Elena's flirty, intimate emails on his unlocked laptop during a rare moment alone in their condo. They were planning to elope after he dealt with me, Anna, Mia said, her voice trembling with a mix of deep hurt and rising indignation. Explicit messages about luxurious vacations in the Maldives funded by company perks he'd siphoned off. And worse, detailed discussions on how to frame me for the financial discrepancies if auditors ever came knocking, using me design firm's access to make it look like I was the one embezzling. Her words ignited a fresh blaze of determination in me, a motivational fire that burned away any lingering doubt or hesitation. He's done, Mia, completely and utterly finished. Alma Kasier, the world sees him for what? He's a fraud, an abuser, a coward hiding behind his money, power, and tech toys. We'll take him down together. It's that afternoon. I drove her to the safe house I'd arranged through a trusted contact in the Survivor Network, a cozy, fully furnished apartment on the city's quieter suburbs. Equipped with reinforced door locks, security cameras installed myself, and utilities registered under an alias to avoid tracing. En route, her old phone now powered on briefly to check for messages wrong with Alex's number flashing on the screen. I answered it myself, my voice as cold and sharp as Arctic ice. "Leave her alone, Harlan. This ends now, or you'll regret it." His response was a chilling, mocking laugh that sent involuntary shivers down my spine. "You think you can play detective with your little articles and notes, Anna? I'll ruin you both. Your career, her life, everything you hold dear. Mia belongs to me." I hung up without another word, then smashed the phone under my heel in an empty parking lot, the shards scattering across the asphalt like the shattered remnants of his illusions of control. Installed a new secure device for Mia, loaded with encryption apps, blockers for trackers, and emergency alert features linked directly to my phone. Evening brought the first stakeout, a thrilling endeavor reminiscent of my early reporting days chasing leads in the field. I rented a nondescript gray sedan from a no questions asked service to blend in, parking it across from Alex's opulent penthouse in the glittering financial district, where uniformed doormen guarded the entrance like sentinels. At 8 p.m. sharp, he emerged from the revolving glass doors, Alina on his arm, tall and elegant in a form-fitting red dress that screamed confidence and allure, her laughter tinkling like wind chimes as if the world was her personal playground without a care. They kissed passionately in the lobby, visible through the expansive glass facade and my high-powered telephoto lens attached to the camera. Snap crystal-clear shots capturing their intimate embrace in high definition. They climbed into his sleek black luxury SUV and drove off to a boutique hotel known for its discretion among the city's elite. I followed at a safe, unnoticeable distance, navigating the evening traffic with practiced ease from years of tailing sources, photographing their check-in as they held hands intimately. His car license plate prominently featured in the frame with a nearby digital street clock, providing an undeniable time stamp. Infidelity documented irrefutably, layered seamlessly onto the mounting evidence of fraud and abuse. Back in my office that night, the city lights twinkling outside like distant stars, I uploaded everything to the encrypted drive, cross-referencing with Carlos's data to build an airtight chronological that would hold up in any court. Mia called from the safe house, her voice steadier but still laced with underlying worry. "I'm scared he'll find me somehow, Anna. But thank you for believing me without question, forfeiting when I couldn't." "We're in this together, always have been, always will be," I replied, my heart swelling with protective love and sisterly bond. The next day, I escorted her to Dr. Alina Torres, a renowned therapist specializing in trauma recovery from abusive relationships. Her office, a serene space with soft lighting and calming artwork, while Mia poured out her soul behind closed doors in her first session. I met discreetly with Acontact at the district attorney's office, a sharp, no-nonsense prosecutor named Maria Gonzalez, whom I'd helped with tips on past corruption cases. I handed her preliminary copies of the evidence packet, the clinic's medical reports detailing the injuries, my high-erase photos of the bruises, the USB's fraud logs and emails. "This is aggravated assault with intent to harm, plus embezzlement and forgery on a corporate scale," she said, flipping through documents with wide, impressed eyes. "Build it airtight, Anna. World need more witnesses. Additional docs to corroborate." But if this holds water, Harlan's going down hard. Federal charges hard. The following weeks unfolded in a whirlwind of relentless investigation and emotional ups and downs, each day blending into next in a haze of coffee-fueled determination and late-night strategizations. I gathered more layers of evidence with meticulous care, sworn affidavits and statements from disgruntled ex-employees detailing Alex's long pattern of workplace abuse, intimidation tactics, and financial manipulations. Security footage from Mia's condo building obtained via a friendly subpoena through Maria's office showing his furious arrival on the night of the attack, his face twisted in uncontrolled rage as he stormed through the lobby and up the elevator. Alex, sensing the noose tightening around his neck, fought back with dirty, underhanded tactics, leaking anonymous smears to sleazy tabloids and gossip sites, headlines screaming sensational lies like Mia Harlan, unstable fiancé fabricates, abuse claims for massive payout, and Sister Anna, biased reporter with a personal vendetta against tech titans. My inbox flooded with hate mail, veiled threats, and spam. Old friends and colleagues distanced themselves, wary of getting caught in the crossfire or associated with the controversy. One stormy night, as rain pounded against the windows like angry fists, my apartment was ransacked while I was out on a lead drawers appended and contents scattered, files torn and strewn like confetti across the floor. My backup laptop smashed beyond repair, though critical data was safely stored in the cloud. A handwritten note was pinned to the wall with a sharp knife driven into the drywall. Back off, no, or she pays next. You can't hide forever. I always find what I want. The violation sent chills through my entire body, a stark reminder of the dangers I was courting. But I reported it immediately to the police, adding stalking, breaking, and dentering. An intimidation to the growing list, off charges piling up against him. The pivotal turning point in the investigation came with confronting Alina directly, a high-risk move that could make or break the case. I tracked her movements through social media breadcrumbs, public records, and tips from Carlos. Approaching her after an upscale yoga class in a trendy studio downtown, the air thick with the scent of essential oils and the sound of Zen music fading in the background. In the parking lot, under a light-drising rain that misted the air, I slid into her luxury convertible Espacerne seat uninvited, a thick folder of evidence in my hand. We need to talk, Alina, right now before it's too late for you. She startled visibly, her perfectly manicured hands gripping the steering wheel tightly, knuckles white. I opened the folder, deliberately stack out photos of her and Alex in passionate embraces. Fraud documents bearing her forged signatures and initials. Even bank statements showing suspicious transfers to her personnel accounts that could implicate her as a co-conspirator. Alex is using you as his fall guy, his scapegoat. When this all crashes down, and it will very soon, you're the one going to prison for years, not him. Testify against him, provide what you know, and I'll ensure you get witness protection. Maybe event immunity if you cooperate fully. She crumbled like a house of cards under the weight of the evidence, tears smearing her flawless makeup as the rain pattered softly on the car's roof. He promised me everything anew, life together, shares in the company after he ditched Mia for good. But it's Ali's. He's been forging my name too on some of the deals to cover his ass. The money was supposed to be for us, but he's hoarding it all in secret accounts. Her confession was pure gold, a game changer. She agreed to cooperate fully, providing additional internal memos, access codes to hidden company servers, and even recorded conversations she'd secretly kept as insurance. Mia's therapy sessions progressed steadily over those weeks. A lifeline in the storm. She began journaling her pain and fears in a dedicated notebook, unpacking years of subtle gaslighting, emotional manipulation, and control that had eroded her self-worth. Rebuilding it brick by emotional brick with Dr. Torres's guidance. We spent evenings together at Safe House when it was secure, organizing the evidence binders, thick tomes filled with printed photos, transcribed emails, financial proofs, her hands growing steadier as she contributed actively. finding a sense of empowerment in the process of fighting back. The trial loomed on the horizon like a gathering storm. A media circus with reporters camping outside the historic courthouse, hungry for every juicy detail of the fall of a tech titan. On the witness stand, I presented the case meticulously and passionately. My voice unwavering to spent the nerves. Detailed medical reports outlining the extent of Mayo's physical injuries. Graphic photos that elicited audible gasps from the jury and gallery. Ironclad financial ledgers exposing the embezzlement scheme in all its glory. Stakeout snaps proving the illicit affair beyond any doubt. Mia testified next, her chin held high despite her trembling hands clutching Thestand, recounting the horror of that night in poignant, heart-wrenching detail that left the courtroom in stunned, empathetic silence. Elena's testimony wasted knockout blow that sealed his fate. She detailed witnessing Alex's abuse of its C's in the office, the fraud scheme she had helped orchestrate under Doris and false promises, her voice cracking with genuine remorse as she admitted her regrets and complicity. Alex's defense team faltered badly under overwhelming weight of evidence. He took the stand himself in a last-ditch fort, ranting arrogantly about jealous women conspiring to destroy a successful man, only to expose his deep-seated narcissism and lack of remorse, sealing his fate in the eyes of the judge and jury. The verdict came swiftly after deliberations, the courtroom tense with anticipation. Guilty on all counts: aggravated assault with intent to cause bodily harm, embezzlement of corporate funds, forgery of documents, harassment, and stalking. Sentenced to 10 years in federal prison, with his assets frozen and liquidated to repay victims and investors. His once mighty company dismantled amid a flurry of shareholder lawsuits and regulatory investigation. As Mia and I walked out of the courthouse hand in hand into the blinding midday sun, reporters swarming but held back by court security, a profound sense of liberation and closure washed over us like a cleansing wave. But the story didn't end with the gavel's final bang. It evolved into a journey of healing, growth, and triumphant empowerment that reshaped our lives. In the months following the trial, the ripples from Alex's conviction spread like shockwaves through the tech industry and beyond. Former employees filed class action lawsuits for workplace harassment and unpaid wages. Investors demanded sweeping audits across similar companies. And new regulations were proposed to tighten controls on data privacy firms to prevent similar abuses of power. I received prestigious awards for my journalism, including a Pulitzer nomination for the comprehensive expose titled The Fall of Harlan: Abuse, Fraud, and Betrayal Behind the Tech Empire. But the true reward was witnessing Mia's remarkable transformation from victim to victor. She moved back in with me temporarily to regroup. Our sisterly bond forged even stronger in the fire of adversity and shared triumph. We spent quiet, reflective evenings on my balcony overlooking the twinkling city lights, sipping herbal tea to soothe our nerves, sharing long-buried stories of our parents, their infectious laughter, their unwavering love for Asand, flipping through old photo albums that brought a mix of healing tears and nostalgic smiles. Her physical bruises faded gradually to faint scars that served as reminders of her strength. But the emotional recovery was an ongoing process. Weekly therapy sessions, where she confronted lingering fears and rebuilt her confidence. Group support meetings with other survivors that built a network of solidarity and friendship. One unexpected twist surfaced during the Asset Forfeiture proceedings. A hidden offshore account in the Cayman Islands that Alex had cleverly squirreled away, containing an additional $2 million in embezzled funds not initially detected. Using fresh tips from Carlos, who became a protected whistleblower with full immunity for his cooperation, I traced through complex blockchain transactions and anonymous ledgers, tipping of federal agents anonymously. It led to enhanced charges being filed, extending Alex's prison sentence by an additional 5 years and providing substantial escutcheon payments for Mia and other victims. Alina relocated under Theo Witness Protection Program to a quiet town in another state far from the city shows. Sent anonymous thank you notes through intermediaries. Expressing proofed gratitude for the second. Chance at a clean slate she'd been. Given the neighborhood that once buzzed with doubtful whispers and judgmental gossip now celebrated us. Openly, neighbors organize a community potlucks and support gatherings, sharing their own untold stories of survival and resilience, creating a web of solidarity that extended beyond our immediate circle. I began mentoring aspiring young journalists at local workshops and university classes, emphasizing the importance of ethical reporting in personal crusades, warning of the inherent dangers, boothlighting the profound rewards of seeking truth and justice. Years later, Mia stood tall and confident at a national conference for abuse survivors, delivering a keynote speech with poised passion. My sister's unyielding fight not only brought my abuser to justice, but taught me the true meaning of resilience. From the depths of victimhood to the heights of victory, we rise stronger together. I watched from the audience, tears of overwhelming pride streaming down my face, as she received a thunderous standing ovation from hundreds of attendees. We embarked on travels together, a therapeutic road trip, retracing our childhoods, visiting the small town where we grew up, scattering flower petals at our parents' gravesite under a clear blue sky, and talking for hours about dreams, regrets, and futures yet to unfold. Mia launched a nonprofit organization developing apps for survivors, using her graphic design skills to create user-friendly tools for safe reporting, anonymous support chats, and resource mapping, turning her pain into a powerful force for good. I consulted in investigations for similar cases, collaborating with law enforcement and advocacy groups to expose more hidden abusers in positions of power, the revenge that initially sparked. This journey, all-consuming and fierce, evolved into something far more profound: emotional empowerment, a motivational fire that forged unbreakable strength from the ashes of betrayal. If this tale resonates with you, remember, that darkness may descend unexpectedly, but courage always ignites the path forward to light and hope. Would you expose the truth in the face of danger, or enduring silence? Share your thoughts below. Every voice matters, every story a candle lighting someone's way. God bless. Better days always await those who choose a toe, fight with heart and conviction.